Welcome to Step by Step Gardening with me, David Domoney, at the very beautiful Bridgemere Show Gardens.
Coming up, what to plant with roses, my guide to the perfect companion for those gorgeous plants. A catch up on our step-by-step growing projects and brilliant wildlife. I show you how to make your own 5-star bug hotel. The first up is Plant of the Month, and it's a summer beauty.
Now, our plant of the month is a real summer people pleaser and great for the wildlife. It is, of course, lavender, favoured for both flower, foliage and fragrance. And there are many different types, and I'm going to give you a guide of how you can choose the right lavender for you. And let's start with English lavender. It's not really English at all, actually. All lavenders originate from southern Europe and the Mediterranean. But this grows so well in the UK, it's called angustifolia. We call it English lavender. And there are different types. There are more compact varieties, and there are looser varieties as well. This is quite a popular one. This is Munstead. And as you can see, it's quite loose, blows beautifully in the wind, lovely mauve flowers at the top. Oh, and a lovely smooth fragrance, a calming fragrance. It's very light with a touch of camphor, whereas varieties like this is a very popular one here called Hidcote, has much darker flowers to it and is a slightly more compact bush. And there are even tighter varieties like this one here, Felice silver, slightly lighter foliage to it, but the flowers are quite tight. You can even get white varieties. So that's English lavender, angustifolia.
If you want your lavender to thrive, you need to plant it in full sun and give it free draining soil, or plant it in a container. And it's an absolutely brilliant plant to have in your garden if you want to attract pollinators, because all kinds of insects absolutely love it.
Now, there is a variety called intermedia, which is a cross between the English and Portuguese lavender, and that gives something completely different. When you smell the foliage and the fragrance from this one, it's much sharper. So the English lavender is the downer, the relaxer, the de-stressor, whereas the intermedia is a much more zesty fragrance. It's quite a loose plant. It has long stems up with the flower heads on the top, but it's most noted for quite a zesty, almost smelling salt effect of lavender. And it's not just these varieties, there's French ones too. Now, the first thing you notice about the French lavender, slightly more showy. As you can see, there's these tufts of petals just at the top. Some people call them bunny's ears. And the foliage is a bit more feathery, but here's the test. I'm just slightly bruising the foliage here to release the fragrance. Ooh, still very lavender, slightly sweet, a little bit soapy. You can get them in bush, and you can also buy them as little standard trees as well. And there's so many different colour options, from the very dark purples, lightening up, into the pinks and then the whites. But the one thing to remember about French lavender, it's not as hardy as the others. And if you live in an area that gets very cold, hard frosts, they may not make it through the winter without a bit of protection.
French lavender blooms in mid to late spring, a little bit earlier than the English lavender. And just like English lavender, it's an absolute magnet for bees, butterflies and other insects.
Finally, something that's just becoming popular for amateur gardeners now, and that is the Spanish lavender. Check it out. Looks completely different. Look at the foliage. Very architectural. And the flower, look how unique that is. Check the fragrance. Oh, certainly not as strong as the other lavenders, but something very, very different. And if you thought that the French lavender was a bit intolerant of frosts, this is even more so. Well, there you have it. a whole range of lavenders. I hope you can find one for your garden.
Last autumn, I planted a number of onions, some garlic and shallots, and they're all coming along nicely. But there has been an interesting development with just a few of the onions.
First thing you notice, I've got quite a few of them. Look at the size of that one just there. Absolutely lovely. Well, one of the developments are these things here. They're coming into flower, or some of them are. We call it bolting. It's when the plant starts to produce flower rather than swelling the bulb. And that's not good for the onion really, well not good for us, because it's not swelling the bulb, there'll be nothing really to harvest. And it does this for a couple of reasons. The first one is irregular watering, but I've had the irrigation on here, they've had plenty of water. But another common issue to make them bolt is fluctuations in temperature. And goodness only knows, so far we've had a hot week, then a cold week, then a hot week. In fact, in some cases, it's been hot and cold in the same day. And what that's done is it's encouraged them to go into seed rather than produce the energy of the bulb. And something interesting, if you take a look, not so much down this line here, but it's this line. And this line is red onions, which are more prone to bolt than white onions or garlic and the like. So what can you do? Well, one, you can lift the plant that has bolted and eat the onion more or less as you would do a fresh onion. It won't store, but you can chop it and still eat it. The other option is you can leave it in the bed to flower. Looks really nice, and of course it's pretty good for the pollinators that visit. But if you cut the flower off, it won't go back into swelling the bulb. It's stopped doing that now. So you either have to leave it or take it out and eat it straight away. If you get a lot of trouble with bolting, you can grow your onions from seed rather than plant onion sets, you know, those mother bulbs that we planted in autumn. But other than that, as you can see, there's a whole mass of onions, which is a pretty good job because we love them.
Roses are such a glorious flower, great on their own, but even better when combined with other plants. So if you're thinking about what might make a great rose companion, there are a few things to consider.
Roses grow best in the sunshine. So if you're choosing companion plants, they need to be sun lovers too.
Rose stems are not always the most beautiful, so you may want to choose a plant to mask them.
To help your roses keep healthy and fight disease, the secret is all about airflow. So when you're putting companion planting around, don't pack them in too tight. Keep that airflow to keep your roses healthy.
There are so many possible combinations for roses. Let me give you some ideas.
Well, my first combination, I'm choosing Vanessa Bell. This is a lovely rose. Very compact, close to about 3.5 feet. But look, when it starts to open, it is beautiful and sort of like goldish in the heart. But when the rose fully opens, it's almost pure white and almost a China tea fragrance with it too. Now the plant that I'm choosing for a combination with this rose is simply a lavender. Take a look at the rose on its own, it's beautiful. The lavender too, but when they're combined, it really pops out. The colour of the flower of the rose and the bright darker colours of the lavender really stands out. And this brings quite a lot to the party. Not only have you got contrasting colours, but you've also got textures in the foliage. Plus, the lavender is evergreen. So during the winter, when the rose loses all its leaves, there is still interest underneath throughout the winter months. But there's something else that this combination brings. Because the lavender brings in more of a biodiversity of insects, it's also bringing in things like hoverflies and even lacewings, which are predators to aphids that attacked the rose. So effectively the rose is outsourcing its defence system to the insects that the lavenders bring in. Now that is effective. Now the next combination is going to start with this lovely rose. This is Princess Anne, and as you can see, lovely pink buds opening up to a glorious double English rose flower. Let's have a lovely fragrance with it as well. Glossy leaves and quite a lot of thorns at the same time. So I'm going to put something in that, shall we say, is different in its shape, and the colour should be a nice combination. Wait for it. Here we have salvia. This is East Friesland, and it's a lovely upright, almost rocket-like flowers that combine with the rose. Now I'm actually going to put in here Synchro Blue, which is a dwarfer variety of salvia, and then I'm just going to alternate them round. So you've got high, low, just in front of the rose like that. Different texture of the foliage, glossy, more matte-like, and the structure itself looks good, and the colours go so well together. And of course, the salvias also bring in some beneficial insects to help look after the rose at the same time. Nice combo. Now my next rose choice for a combination is a beautiful golden one called Poet's Wife. Now it's really gold in the centre, and as the flower ages it becomes whiter, and there's one big full one just over here. Let's just test the fragrance. Oh, quite fruity, zesty. Now I'm going to put a few different combinations here for you to take a look at. The first one is a salvia, but instead of the purple one I've chosen Snow Hills, which is a lovely white one. I really think these upright flowers do a lot in the combination, but the foliage also contains sulphur, which inhibits the growth of mildew, which can also affect the roses. So they're really good companion planting for health reasons, let alone beauty. Now the next plant that I've chosen for this combination, I want to really pick out the colour of the foliage of the rose and also the colour of the flower. So I'm looking for green and slight golden tints. And here I'm choosing Alchemilla, the lady's mantle. And as you can see, it couldn't be any closer, could it? But a different texture to the foliage, and it's giving that extra bit of interest. And now for a burst of colour. Nepeta, catmint. This particular variety is called Kit Kat. Again, bringing in beneficial insects, interacting with the lady's mantle and the salvia and the rose. Let's go the whole hog. And add in a really nice geranium. Now this one's called Roseanne. Again, different texture to the foliage, beautiful shape of the flower, and suddenly it becomes a combination. Now I've put all of these on this one small bench here for you to get a flavour of what the plants would look like, but you need plenty of air movement, certainly through roses, to stop disease. So when you are putting them in the border, make sure you've got sufficient planting space to allow the plants to grow so they don't come too congested. And that is the secret to garden design. Choosing plants that pair well visually, that extend the season of flowering and bringing additional benefits of helping each other's health. You can't go wrong.
For my last combination, I'm planting a rose in a pot. And that rose is the sherbet-scented Eustacia Vi.
Now here's the plant, the Erigeron. Just look at how the combination goes so well. Very different structured plant, but there is some similarities. Take a little look at the flower when it's young and in bud. It's pink, very much like the flower of the rose, and then as it opens out, it becomes white. And that's a really nice look. And of course the foliage is so very different, very loose plant. And I think the combination of this growing around the base will just lift and add something special to the container. Because this little plant is so very open in its habit, it'll allow airflow through and through the rose as well, which will help against disease. And the other thing I particularly like about this plant is it's going to start to trail. and cascade all over the front of the container. Of course, its dense foliage over the surface will also help to suppress weeds. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is the Erigeron will flower for longer. So when the rose is finishing flowering, you've effectively extended the season of interest with the container. Well, there you have it. 4 completely different ideas on how you can get the most out of your roses by choosing the most ideal companion plants.
Attracting wildlife into the garden is very beneficial. From the bees that visit right the way through to some of the smaller insects like ground beetles or lacewings. They all play an important part in the health of the garden. So I'm going to show you how you can recreate bug habitats in your garden.
There are lots of different types that you can go into the garden centre and choose that are very, very ornamental, and there's some larger ones. So if you fancy ready-made bug hotels, they're easy to pick up. However, you can make your own, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, first of all I've done is created a frame. And as you can see at the top, I've just drilled through to put a little bit of rope so I can hang it up on the wall.
I'm putting in a shelf and also a marine ply backing. That will help to keep my bug hotel waterproof and keep the components from falling out.
Now it's the fun bit. It's choosing different material to create perfect habitats for little insects. First of all, just pick up some logs and drill different size holes in the logs themselves. Now this is very beneficial for little solitary bees. And the secret is using different size drill bits to create different size holes because there's different size bees. Now the fun bit is just to get them all to fit into different locations in the frame. What you should really think about is this is a work of art. These recycled materials from the garden are in fact the materials that I'm going to use to create the picture. I'm also going to use some of these, which are bamboo canes, and as you can see, some of them are wider, some of them are smaller, catering for lots of different types of bees. And it's really about filling every space.
The more types of bug you want to attract, the wider range of filling materials you'll need for your hotel. There's all sorts, and you can find these around your home and garden.
In fact, pine cones are particularly good. Little ladybirds love getting inside them. There we go. And also, any broken bricks, terracotta, roof tiles are also very useful for creating small crevices for little spiders and many other small creatures that will come to visit. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of wedging to get them into position using smaller pieces just to put that pressure to hold them in tight. I'm now just in some of the spaces adding moss and straw, something that's nice and cozy for the little insects.
Materials like straw and moss are great to use because they provide a warm and safe environment for insects to shelter and hibernate.
Take your time, enjoy it, because it's all about being a little artistic. Look at different textures, different colours, different shapes. But of course, as you're adding in all these different elements, they're appealing to different insects. So it's a win-win. There we go. Are you ready for the big reveal? Remember, it's a bug hotel, but I'm hoping it was also a work of art. Hey presto. Now we're going from a bug hotel to a bug high-rise. Here we are. Now I've used some cut down pallets. You could make it bigger by using full size, but the principle is just the same. I'm creating a series of habitats for beneficial insects in the garden, and of course they need to be dry as well. So the first thing I've done is I've just put a little bit of a cut off roof felting on the top to help keep it waterproof.
The materials I'm using are similar, But because I'm working on a bigger scale, larger animals like amphibians may also come here. They like these cooler spots. But do use a range of surfaces from rough to smooth and hard to soft to protect any delicate wings.
Now this is sheep's wool that's been cleaned and ready for garden use for a variety of different things. Some people use them against slugs, others offer them for bedding for the birds at the beginning of the season. So I've just loosened it a bit and I'm putting it in here for little creatures to be able to get in, get nice and cosy. Now old flower heads are also pretty good. There we go, some teasel here. Look at these hydrangeas. They'll work because little insects can get right in between them. And let's just put that in there. And it makes a perfect little habitat. And as far as the inside is concerned, your hedge clippings and your like, don't throw them away. You can fill these in the middle. Lovely little habitat.
Hedge clippings and leaves mimic the forest floor, offering vital shelter for all sorts of insects and amphibians to hide from predators, survive bad weather and hibernate through the winter.
Now, it's not going to say exactly the same. Some birds will come up and use some of this for their nests. Well, it's not exclusively for the insects. And of course some things will break down as well. So once you've got it, some will remain consistent, but others will evolve and adapt. Right, I'm going to work my way all the way around. But in the meantime, I'm not just going to leave the roof like that. Now here is a load of the clippings from pruning my espaliers. And literally, I'm going to place that on the roof because it doesn't only make it look a little bit more organic and natural, it'll also be a little habitat too. Right, I've just got to fill in the other sides and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished.
While I do that, here are my top 3 reasons for making a bug hotel. First, they encourage biodiversity into your garden. Second, these bugs will help with vital pollination and also protect against garden pests like aphids. And third, bringing these bugs into your garden, you'll feed all sorts of nature further up the food chain, from hedgehogs to frogs and many different birds.
Well, there you have it. You know, if I was a little garden bug, I'd be very happy to get myself settled and checked in there. I've got to be honest with you, I really did enjoy making that.
Just a few weeks ago, I sowed some radishes, carrots and leeks into my new veg beds. And now, my radishes are ready to harvest.
There we are. Look at these. Some of them are still very young and some of them look close to being overripe. But it said on the packet there was a variety of colours. And look, what have we got? Reds and purples and yellows and whites. Now I'm going to harvest them all just here by just pulling them up lightly. Giving them a shake. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Lovely radish there. It's all in the taste. Nothing beats homegrown produce. Oh, that's gorgeous. And I told you they were quick as well. From the moment of sowing to producing, just a matter of weeks. Just have a look at that lot. From a little packet of seeds, and I only used a few of the seeds out of the pack. Who needs to go to the supermarket when you can grow your own, saving money, much more convenient, and the flavour is certainly better. Right, let's get these into the kitchen. But in the meanwhile, look at the space that I've got here. I told you they were a fast crop. So now, in this space, I'm going to do another line of carrots and another line of leeks. So what I've got is successional cropping. So I'm cropping over a longer period of time.
I'm using the leftover seeds from last time and again spacing the carrots and leeks out to avoid having to thin them out later.
When I was sowing these ones here, of course I was worried about the cold and the frost. But now I've put these ones in, it's not about the cold, it's worrying that there might be a drought. So I'm making sure this whole bed here is well watered. And the little space at the end that I haven't sown anything yet, in a couple of weeks I'll put some more carrots in.
Back in March I planted my summer flowering dahlia tubers and my lily bulbs. The lilies are flowering and looking glorious, but now it's warmer, I can also plant out my dahlias.
There we are, and I should get flower from these right the way up into the autumn.
And there's another vegetable that I can get started.
I'm thinking ahead to the autumn, and I'm just in time to put this in. A pumpkin. They're marvellous pumpkins. They prefer a little bit of sunshine, and believe me, they go absolutely mad. I'm putting one in this bed here. It's going to grow out over the sides and even along the grass. Sunny position and plenty of space. Now when you plant a pumpkin, the secret is to also plant the pot right by the side of it, because pumpkins are incredibly thirsty, not only when they're producing the pumpkin fruit, but also as they're growing and getting themselves established. So if you plant the pot right by the side of the pumpkin, it acts almost as a reservoir. So when you're watering the plant, you can also fill up the pot by the side of it, which will slowly seep down, saturating deep into the soil to encourage deep rooting of the pumpkin itself. There you go. That'll grow quicker than you think. Well, that's it for this show. I do hope you enjoy it. Please put a comment below on what you think of the show and maybe some topics you'd like me to cover in a future episode. There's lots of content coming on this channel, so why not subscribe? And you can gain lots of inspiration for your own garden. Thanks for watching and enjoy your garden.